Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of the London Free Press Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Gilbert. This is my second week, and this week we're talking all about the London Majors. I love following them. I love going to the games because Labatt Park is such a magical park. So let's talk to London Free Press sports writer Ryan Pyette. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
I'm great, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
Let's just talk a little bit about the park itself and how great it is to just go to a game. And I know there's a lot of fans going to these games in the last couple of years, right?
Oh, it's amazing. It's great to see the old park coming. It's always I've gone to a lot of baseball parks in my life, and it's a special place that when you go there, it's very calming and it's beautiful. It always reminded me of if people have gone to Toronto and the University of Toronto football team plays right on Bloor Street and Varsity Field, and it's kind of like in London, it's that same feel of like the cities in the back, the cityscapes in the background, but you're at a ballpark, and you know that Fergie Jenkins played there, and George Mooney, and all these guys, all these great ball players in the past. So it has that rich history. Obviously, everyone's very proud that it's the longest serving baseball park. It went in the Hall of Fame during the pandemic. It went in the Hall of Fame, the London Sports Hall of Fame. It's the first non-human to go in the Hall of Fame. So that was pretty cool. And I think the majors have been a good draw just based on their team. But I think people just enjoy on those Friday nights or Sundays going to the park, right? And
Yeah.
especially now the summer's kind of ending. It's one last, when they hit the playoffs here, it's one last kind of grasp to say, here, I'm going to spend some time in a beautiful night, and before what happens in the fall, right? It
Oh,
starts
yeah.
raining and
Yeah,
everything.
that's
So
right.
yeah.
There's
So
a lot of history in that park, and it's like magical being there to me. So the London Majors, of course, won the championship last year. We know that. That's the second time they've won. Do you think, I mean, they've had a great season this year. So do you think they can do it again? Do you think we can pull out another one, two times in a row?
oh, absolutely, and it comes down to they got strong starting pitching again. They did last year, and they do this year. Owen Boone and Jose Arias, who's a newcomer from Dominican, he's stepped in. He's been the best pitcher in the league. And when you have the best starting pitching in this league, you can some of these guys will pitch 7, 8, 9 innings. It's not like the major leagues anymore where they get to 100 pitches and they get them out of there, right?
Mm,
This is and these guys, they barely lose, and that's why London's record's been so good, and the bullpen's been pretty good. And then you have the lineup. If people recognize the Cleveland Brownlees and Byron Reichsteins, and these guys have been in the lineup for a long time. And Roop Chandrat, the GM and manager, did a great job, accenting that, bringing in some young guys, some new faces, and so they do have that championship swagger from last year, but they also have a lot of energy too. And it's actually fun to watch this lineup, hit from top 6 in the order. There's not very many outs there,
yeah.
and they can put up a big number. You see in Toronto, they needed to win their final regular season game to set up the playoff game, the 1-game playoff with Guelph, and they scored 10 runs in the third inning against Toronto. So
Wow.
in Toronto, so they have that kind of firepower, I guess. And it's when you combine that with the great pitching, and the London's always had pretty good defense. So you got a championship caliber team again.
Can you compare last season to this season at all? Were we putting up those big numbers last season? Did we have these star pitchers?
Yeah, I mean they did have they had Pedro De Los Santos and Owen Boone, and they're the top 2 pitchers in the league. But I think what happened this year is the batting average has gone, like they're more dangerous at the plate. They were batting, the last time I checked, was like 318 as a team, which is really
Mm,
ridiculous. That means like almost the whole team was batting over 300. And the catcher that Roop Chandrat brought in, named Robert Mullen, he's been like the best pure hitter in the league, and I think the MVP of the league. And he's also a hit for power, he's hit for average, and he's also the catcher. So he's catching these great pitchers. So if you can find someone that more important to the team than this guy is,
yeah.
then I don't think there is one. And of course, it's great to see Cleveland Brownlee he's getting up there in age now. I think 38 now, and he's still pounding the ball. And I'd love to see him have another great playoff run. He's obviously proven he can do it, and it'll be great to see him hit a couple bombs in the playoffs too, and lead the team, because he's always been a fun guy to be around. And when you start to see some of these guys in action and be around them, you see why they're kind of a tight group, and why they start to win, right?
Yeah. I did want to talk about Cleveland Brownlee. If you've gone to a game, you know Cleveland, and he's like a fan favorite. He's having one of his best seasons right now.
Yeah, he said he wanted to hit 15 home runs. Like he said early on when he was batting 400, he said, I want to hit 15 home runs, and he did. And it's kind of unbelievable. And if anybody knows the origin story of Cleveland Brownlee, he's obviously from Georgia, but he always likes to tell that Rup Chenderdat brought in two guys, and the other guy, he brought in two imports from the U.S., and the other guy was supposed to be a big stud player, and the guy didn't pan out. And the other guy was Cleveland Brownlee, and I remember from day one, it was like, what a name! The guy has like an amazing name. So it was like, when you see it, even in the media, when you see a guy with a great name, you're like, oh. And then so Cleveland always jokes like, oh, the other guy, didn't have as good a name as me, but I'm here for 15 years, right? And obviously he's a businessman running his own business, and just a joy to be around. And obviously the captain, the leader of the team. They got a lot of veteran guys like Reichstein, like I said, Keith Candell. This guy's this guy's fun to be around. You just kind of gravitate towards him, and I can see how the players do too.
He is a lot of fun, and the play. Everybody loves, like nobody dislikes Cleveland. He's a favorite when you're at the park for sure.
Yeah, hey Rachel, my favorite quote this year was when he was hitting 400. He's like, hey, people don't pay to see Cleveland run around the bases. They pay to see him trot around the bases. So I got to hit more. He was talking about wanting to hit more home runs, right, this year. So I thought
and then he does it. And then he does it.
And he does
right?
it. Yeah. He's cost the majors a lot of balls over the years, hitting into the water in left field and at Labatt Park. So I don't know if they take that off his salary or fine him or something like that for hitting all the balls out there. But I said if someone was down there at the Thames, they'd probably make a killing finding a lot of baseball.
They'd find them all for sure. Let's talk about then what fun it is to go to the games. Like, they've got a lot of fans that have come out since last year winning the championship, and this has been a big year for them again as well. I mean, talk about the fan base, the growing fan base, and just how much fun it is, and how much people love to support the team right now.
Yeah, I think like London likes winning teams. You know, the Knights, the Lightning, same thing with the majors. They'll get bigger crowds when people will back a team that they believe is going to win a championship, because that's what London's become used to in its sports, right? By Western football and that sort of thing. So I do want to say, I think one thing that happened really neat this year is that the Welland Jackfish, who Guelph and Welland and London were competing all year for first place. It was one of the best. The IBL is like over 100 years old, and this was one of the best pennant races I've ever seen. And I think what's really cool, Welland kind of fashions itself as a team that's kind of like they've come in, they're the new kids on the block. And if anybody's seen the Savannah Bananas on the internet or something, they have like a lot of fun playing baseball, and they do all these crazy things that they try to get on social media and all that. And Welland's like, we're the Canadian Savannah Bananas, and we want to like, and so they have at their park, they kind of try to make it hard for the visiting team. So when London goes in there, they'll have signs and they'll have people really chirping. And it got to the point where at one point this year that the PA announcer was chirping the London players as they were going up to the plate. And so it became like a big deal and all that, and kind of a rivalry started forming between the two teams, which will be interesting to see if they meet in the playoffs. And upcoming here. And they're both very good teams. And so Welland's like, we want to be, we're trying to be like London, in as a business team and on the field and all that, but we're going to be kind of this scrappy team. So, and I know London's fan base, there are some leather lung fans, and I want to just see if that, I'd love to see that kind of series, and Toronto a bit like that too, where a great rivalry, and see how the fans, if there's lots of fans, and if they start getting on the other players, because it's usually a nice night at the park. Like, like we said, it's a beautiful ballpark, but I know there's a little, when it gets to competition, it could get a little, dusty with some barbs being thrown back and forth, which should be, it would be really fun. It would be a great atmosphere to see.
It's
at the
always
park.
fun to be at those games.
Yeah.
It's always fun. I mean, it's maybe not for the players, but for the fans for sure. Well, then since we're talking about Welland, let's talk about some of the parity in the league, because they have been in a 3-way tie with Welland and what was the other one?
Well, Guelph.
Guelph.
So London, Guelph, and Welland have been the class of the league this year, and Toronto, who London played in for the finals, and it went the full 5 games. And obviously, it was kind of like a pandemic season. They're coming out of all the restrictions, right? So, so this year, Toronto's been very good too. So I would say I'd divide the league in half, and I'd say the top 4 teams really, really have a chance to win, and the bottom 4 teams are going to be real tough. Like that'd be to me, it'd be a huge upset if maybe Barrie, Toronto. Maybe Barrie's always been a good program, but I think at the bottom of the league, Hamilton, Kitchener, and Brantford are really going to have a tough time beating those top 3 teams. But best of 5 series, and in the first round, you never know. And I think I'd like to see personally, because everybody kind of got invested in the finals last year, and there were like thousands and thousands of people. I think 5,000 for the game 5, which was it's always incredible to be in those at Labatt Park when it's almost full. And so I'd like to see them play Toronto. And if the top 4 teams win, who knows? But you're going to have a great. Once you get past the first round, all the baseball is going to be fantastic. So heading into the last week, August and Labor Day, you're going to see some great baseball. It's really the IBL playoffs. I equate it to kind of like the OHL playoffs or the OUA football playoffs. It's like you got to be there, because you're going to see something special. Right?
Well, I was going to say, like, IBL is just, if you're not into it, it's good baseball. It's good baseball to watch, and it's fun.
Oh yeah,
fun to go to the game.
I think you got college players, you got guys like Cleveland Brownlee who are very, very good players that are just at the end of their kind of career. You got guys in the middle that they just coming out of organizational ball, so they were drafted, did play, and then you got import players, and you got guys that maybe nobody's really heard of until they get here, but then they're like phenomenal baseball players, because we all know down in Dominican and obviously in the U.S. there's just tremendous baseball players. So and Rup Chandrat's always said, if you get 4 imports and if you can get really good players in there, they can form. If you have great Canadian players and as a core, and then you can get those guys and accent the team like that, you really do have a contender. And that's what these teams have done the last few years. It's been hard. It's been hard to do the past couple of years because of the pandemic to get guys here, obviously with everything going on, restrictions and passports and ArriveCan and that sort of thing. But this year it's kind of back to normal, and it's good to see the like you said, the quality of the league and the number of good players in it.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be watching the majors, and go Majors go. We want them to win again. Thank you.
A little dynasty, right? Like Brantford, I remember I watched that with them win 6 in a row, then Barrie won 6 in a row. Maybe it's London's turn to win 6 in a row. We're a little early for that, but
fingers crossed.
2 in a row would be great.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ryan. We'll talk to you soon.